I'm not going to lie. You are like quilting royalty, and I'm a little nervous.
Oh, no.
Quilters, they're just like us, right?
Yeah.
So you've done a podcast before. You did your own podcast, right?
I did. It was only audio, and it was actually internet radio. So it was live radio. And I started it, I ran it for about a year and a half and then looked for a sponsor. So then I produced it and ran it for American Patchwork and Quilting magazine after that. But it was never any video with it.
Gotcha.
That's really cool. I had a chance to listen to a couple of the episodes, and I'm like, not going to lie, my favorite is Linda Pacini.
Oh, you did an episode with Linda? I love Linda so much.
Yeah, every 10 years, I spoke to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. She's on my vision board. We went and met her in Missouri when we went to their product training.
Right,
and I was
right.
like, oh, she's just so comfortable in her skin. I want to like be able to talk about sewing stuff like her.
Oh, she is quite amazing. And she has that ability to let everybody feel like they're her best friend, like immediately. You talk to her and it's just her aura. She's just an incredible person. And her sewing knowledge is oceans deep.
She's very talented.
Yeah. And she has a way of like inspiring you to be like, I just know I can do this now.
Right. Yeah.
The vibe check. There you go. Oh, well, I guess, Pat, we kind of just went right into it, didn't we?
Yes.
Well, it is wonderful to have you on. As I mentioned, I am a little nervous because you're quilting royalty, but if you could just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, that would be fabulous.
Well, I'm Pat Sloan, and I live in Northern Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C. So if they visualize that, I live within a very, very highly populated area. I've got 1.2 million people in my county. So we are I call myself very urban. So it's very urban living. Let's see, I've been sewing, quite a long time. I learned in home ec class. So I was one of those kids that took home ec class where, when that teacher said, turn on the machines, it was like the angels sang, because I was like, oh, this is so cool, because I knew nothing about sewing. I don't have anybody in my family who sewed. Really nobody did crafts for the most part. So it's all, my mother always says she doesn't know where I came from. So it's,
So do you happen to remember what machine you learned on in home ec?
Not in home ec, but my mom and dad were incredibly encouraging. They still are. And they bought me my own machine. We lived in Europe, so they had to buy it on European currency because to run a machine through the transformers were just, so they bought me a Genie. Is that Singer Genie? Is that Genie? Yeah. And I don't have it anymore because they left it there when they moved back to the United States. So, it's on that currency.
Well, whoever has it, it's probably still running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to get calls about the Singer Genie quite a bit when I was in customer service. I can't remember the exact model number or numbers because there's several, but I think it's like 544 or something. Now that's going to bug me.
Oh, no.
Pat, I do have to say thank you for your unboxing portion of the video you posted the other week. We are very grateful that you did that. When I first saw you pop in on our list, I was like, oh my gosh, Pat Sloan signed up to be one of our affiliates. And I I freaked out a little bit. I freaked out a little bit.
You guys are so cute.
Well, to be able to send you something and for you to like show it off on your platform was a really cool, like pat on my back moment. I was very, very proud and just blessed to make that connection with you. And I'm super excited that you're talking to us today.
Well, it was so fun. You were very gracious to send things along to show people. They love seeing new things, and you happen to send me almost everything I don't have. So that was great. So it's fun to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. I am sorry. 1 second. No, the other thing that I was going to say is the book, Bernie's book that you had shown off. Everybody was loving on that book. And it's cool that you had mentioned that you're going to do a deeper dive. If you have looked at that book a little bit further it's so fabulous. He does such a wonderful job on just mechanic stuff in general. So
Mhm.
very cool.
Yeah, I'll have to do that because I'm your true confessions. I mean, like I turn it on and I use it. That's how I do machines. I'm just not a real machine techie, dive into kind of person. So I'm kind of like on the other end of things, maybe from you guys because that's sort of your focus.
mhm.
All the little parts and everything. I'm more like what can I make this do for me? What can I sew? What can come out the other end in fabric? And I put machines when they have a problem or people need to troubleshoot their own. It's really nice to have a tool, book. I like books, that you can go look at.
That's awesome. So when you were in home ec and you learned to sew, was that quilting or did quilting come later?
Yeah, no, that was clothing. We just did clothing, and I didn't even know what a quilt was until I met my husband. Yeah, so I met him. He wasn't my husband yet, but his grandma had made quilts. And so my first quilt, I basically decided I wanted to make a bedspread. It was like
Mm.
in 1978. And I went to the sewing store where I bought my clothing fabric and told them I wanted to make a quilt. So they got a magazine. They gave me this magazine, and I bought like the calico there because in like 78 there really was not much in the way of fabric for
Mm.
quilting, And so I made this giant star, and made a bedspread, and then that was it for a long time, a very long time. I didn't
So
even think
question,
about it.
do you still have that quilt?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
awesome.
I've
that's
shown it.
really
I've
cool.
shown it. I actually had it put in a picture of it put in one of my books. So I did that because I thought it would be fun.
I have a question for you. So, since you have been a part of the quilting community for quite some time,
Mhm.
I would say you're probably like one of the community elders and you command the authority in the community. How have you seen the quilting industry grow from your time back in the 70s to now?
Yeah, I didn't get in it in the 70s, the industry. I didn't enter the industry until about 1998,
Okay.
97. Yeah, 97, 98. I just sewed as a hobby. But it has changed since 97, for sure, because the internet was in barely existed for anybody who wasn't maybe a big business or government and stuff like that in the late 90s. I worked in computers. That's my first career. So I have a computer science degree. I spent 20 something years as a software developer. And I was all into the technology. I was in it as fast as I could get online, let me sign in. But it took a really long time for quilt makers to get there. And I would follow different communities, and like the knitters were much more progressive. So knitters were like online, but like the quilters are like, no, 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 don't email me. Like it took a really long time. But it's been fabulous now that everybody is online. Or if
Mhm.
they're not, they're like, everything's online. So it's great. That's the big change because online brings so much with it because you
Mhm.
become a global society. You're no longer very isolated to just what is in your own store, in your own community. You now can pick up your phone in the morning and see what your friend in Australia just made. And in the 70s, you couldn't do that.
Yeah, your community is incredible. I mean, can you tell everybody a little bit about your YouTube and your Facebook?
Yeah, I love online communities. If they That is where I thrive. I just love to be able to talk to people in an online community, and I've been on them since like 1998. I
Mm.
mean, there were communities there. They were small, but I was in them. And so I've run online communities on many platforms because over the years, platforms change. People start in one place. Like, yeah, if anybody remembers Yahoo, there were Yahoo groups that were wonderful and lively and vibrant and had great things, and that's all gone. They totally gone. They shut down that platform. So as things slowed and ebbed, you moved. And right now, my community is on Facebook, my largest community. It is 340,000 quilters across the world. And so it is fun, it is active. I have a group of quilters who I call my ambassadors that help me manage the group. They're volunteers. They will answer questions and help with, because it's a moderated group, because when it's that big, you have to have moderation and stuff. So they help with that and, kind of keep things on track and all that kind of stuff. And then I've always done YouTube. I don't know when you all started YouTube. Do you remember when you opened your store? Probably.
Well,
15.
Yeah, it's been a little while because the girl that previously did it for several years. So yeah,
But we took over.
We took over about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Well, I was a little bit more, or a little bit before Brian, excuse me.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is managing this platform for Sewing Parts Online is new to Trisha and I in the grand scheme of things. And it is, I just have to take the opportunity to say, it is, with 3 people here, so much work just to manage one platform. So the fact that you have gone from platform to platform, learned, new quirks about each platform, grown your community, like a lot of internet people who are successful in the internet today, they get there pretty quickly. So to hear that you really trudged through the mud and you just kept consistent and you built this massive, friendly, really engaged community, it's truly impressive.
yeah, like just thinking about it, like we're constantly wondering how can we build our community, because we love the community aspect of it. It just makes our hearts happy, and it's like to see yours grow like that. It's like, oh, one day maybe we'll have a community. How do we get there?
You're really cool. What we're trying to say.
You're very cool. You're very inspiring.
Thank you. Well, it is interesting. You have to enjoy it. And, obviously you guys are in that part of the business that you enjoy it, and you have to enjoy it. I do. That's one of my favorite things about doing what I do is the community aspect and where I run it. And like for YouTube, I tried it like 6 months after YouTube went up. I made my first video. And so it's awful. You can see it. It's out there. It's like I filmed it in my I filmed it in my backyard. I mean, it's like, but I spent a lot of time in this business on the road. And so during that part, my video stuff was a lot less because I was spending time on the road. And then when I was home, I was writing a lot of books. And so there was just other parts that were making everything run. And YouTube wasn't part of that. And so it's still, I would do one every so often. But after my podcast ended, I decided that, I get back into YouTube more consistently since I didn't have this weekly podcast anymore. Now I would do like a weekly video, or maybe I would do one other one. So I started building that up for the past 5 years. And I just hit 99,000 subscribers. Yes.
Congratulations. Yes. You're close to 100.
I'm close to 100,000. That's the goal. I've been giving quilts away. You would think like it would just grow like fast, but even when you give quilts away, it still takes a very long time to grow your subscriber rate. But I have a really great community there, and that feeds all the other things that I do, so that people watch my video, then they come to my Facebook group, and then then we talk there about what's going on, because Facebook allows you to share a picture. So I'll say, show me your blue quilts today, or show me your Star Wars quilts today, or whatever it is. And they can't show that on YouTube, so they go over to my Facebook group. Yep. So they are all kind of interconnected.
So speaking of your YouTube, one of your videos in particular is your most successful video, and it doesn't have a whole lot to do with what you're known for, which is quilting. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I think right now my highest watched video is where I had skin cancer. And so it was on my face, on my nose. And so I had looked like, the Bride of Frankenstein for, about a month or so while that was healing. And my surgeon, he suggested that I do a video on it. He said, there's a lot of people who don't have the information that you might be able to provide about your experience. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I did. I basically talked about what I went through, because there's a lot of scary videos out there. And even
Mm-hmm.
though my face looked a little bad, looked a little rough, it was, mine was not a scary one. It was basal cell carcinoma, which is very slow growing, very isolated. I had the Mohs procedure, but anyways, that video is watched by a lot of people who are not quilters. So they
Yeah,
just find it.
I appreciated that video a lot because it was educational for a completely different aspect, but you did such a great job passing on information. So I know a lot of people are going to appreciate that video. But
Yeah.
also, you had a whole nother experience with some injuries, right?
Oh yeah, like I had a couple of years there where it just was not was not my time. Yeah. I yeah, right after COVID started, like 3 months into it, I tripped on the sidewalk and broke both of my wrists. And so, if for any of you out there that have broken one wrist, I would have prayed for that. But two wrists was a bit rough. And I was in this spot where none of us really understood what COVID was and how long we would be under these restrictions and, not be well. And so I decided I would just keep filming. So I film 6 days a week, and so I still filmed 6 days a week with two broken wrists. For
That's dedication right there.
That's wild, Pat. Good
That
for
is
you. That's
dedication.
my husband had to do a lot of stuff when that was going on, so he had to help with a lot of things, and then he had to film, including filming. So he even went on film once. That's like
Nice.
he's like,
well,
I'll
thank
come and
goodness for
say
him.
hi.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, husband.
Yeah,
I
Greg,
do
my
have to
husband,
touch on
Greg.
the fact I do have to touch on the fact that you just said you film 6 days a week. How do
Yes.
you prevent burnout?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, I've been filming 6 days a week for 3.5 years. So, I am taking time, like if there's a holiday, I don't do a film. Like during the first year, I kind of filmed. I mean, I had to film on Christmas Day the first year
Mm,
because we were under COVID and people were just felt sad. So I
yeah.
just felt like I would do one because it wasn't a lot for me to do 10 minutes and just say hi.
Mhm.
Um, but now I had to take some time where I'm just not filming or I'm not having to produce a film and load it that day, that kind of a
Mhm.
thing. So I
Yeah.
just have to balance. But basically my videos I'm not doing heavy duty tutorials 6 days a week. I
Mhm.
am showing you what I sew. And I prefer to do that. I mean, there's lots of tutorial videos out there, and that's kind of not what my gig is. I'm more a lifestyle. This is what I do
Mm,
all on a daily basis. I host lots of sew alongs, so we talk about those. I talk about organization. I talk about, just whatever it kind of comes to my mind. So it is not one of those channels where you'll go, very often to say, I want to learn how to do a mitered corner. Well, I might
mm,
show you that, but I'm going to talk about a bunch of other stuff in the same video. So it's not like my format is just more lifestyle.
mm.
I like that
Yeah.
because it's saying like I know exactly who I am and what I want to deliver, and it's like prioritizing what makes you happy with the content, because ultimately if you are not having fun with the content you're
Right.
producing, then no, like it's
Translate.
not going to translate.
Yeah.
So to say like, no, my priority is to be authentically myself with who I am online, and I'm not going to spend all this time creating these tutorials when that's not what I'm interested in doing. And you still like,
Right.
because most people go to YouTube for that kind of stuff. So
Right.
to get a
Mhm.
community to fall in love with you just by sharing your story, I mean,
Mhm. Pretty awesome.
it is.
Yeah.
And speaking of community, I want to back up to COVID when you had said people were just sad. We had encountered this during our So Creative Live where somebody was saying that they felt part of something. You know, I know you're probably looking at me like, Trish, what are you even talking about? He knows what I'm talking
No,
about.
I know what you're talking about.
But there's people that feel a connection with you when you can grow that community together. And it's like you're thinking you're sharing some sewing stuff, and they're sitting here feeling like, I'm part of something. And that's what we want too, because legit, we want people to really feel as they're part of our community, and we can learn together, grow together,
Right.
do projects together. And that just made me so happy. I know I'm not getting it across the way I need to, but it just made me
No.
really happy, and I'm actually getting teary-eyed because it makes me like emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot that you can do with platforms like this to make people feel better. So,
Right. People do love, I mean, they listen to it in the background, or they
mhm.
need to have a pick me up because something else isn't going so well, and they can go back. We can all sort of dig into our sewing sometimes, or just
Mhm.
into that community, because you don't even have to be sewing. You can just dig into your community and say, hey,
Mhm.
I need some happiness. So you can look at pretty quilts, or listen to somebody talk about pretty quilts,
Yeah.
or show something fun, and if there's a little education, hey, that's cool. But sometimes you don't have any brain power for that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to have to listen to a heavy duty tutorial. You just want a little quilt chat, like you're at a guild. I don't know
Mm.
if you're involved with your local guilds, but like at a guild, sometimes people come, they don't want to sit and sew, they just want to hang out and be with everybody and get that really good vibe. And so that's
Mhm.
what I hope I provide with my videos, is like anywhere in the world, any time of day you need it. You need it at 2 a.m. in the morning, just turn it on. There it is. You
Mhm.
can join in.
Yeah, quick shout out to the Hickman County Quilt Guild in Centerville, Tennessee. That's my quilt guild. I hope
Oh,
y'all are
good.
watching there. So I have a question really quickly. So talking about the connection you've made with your community, do you have any fun or interesting stories about meeting people who follow you online in real life?
Meeting them in real, oh yeah, I've met lots of people in real life, because when I taught on the road, they were there. It was kind of fun, and is that I wasn't doing a whole lot of videos during this, but the community thing was massive. I have a co-author, Jane Davidson, who's Australian. We did two books, but when we were doing the first book, called The Splendid Sampler, we invited about 80 designers to all do a 6-inch block, and then we did this free quilt along for the world. And
Mhm.
so every week for a year, because we had a block, and it was a different designer. Well, when this first kicked off, we had a special Facebook group for it. We had a special website for it. But when it first kicked off, it was amazing because it had involved so many people, so many other designers that all did the kickoff all at once. So you had like
Mhm.
lots of momentum where people heard about it. That was the thing. We wanted lots of people to hear about it, to join in. And I would go to things and people would have their displays of their blocks. And when we first started, it was so fun to just go all over the US. And then Jane was in Australia doing the same thing. She'd go in and somebody would have a display up, look at the blocks that we're doing. And, then
That's
this will
awesome.
That's
appear.
incredible.
And, so that was just a really massive effort. But on a smaller scale, the same thing's going to happen. They'll talk to me about something I said on the video, and I would forgot that I had. I'm like, how do they know that? And it's like you have that brief second. It's like, because that's video and this is real life. So how do you know that? Oh, you're watched. Okay.
That's incredible. I also want to touch on the fact that you've mentioned a couple times that you have books. So you're an author. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I started writing books very soon after I started in the industry. Leisure Arts was the publisher at the time, and they came to me, and I did 20 books, about, no, not 20, probably about 17 books with Leisure Arts. And then I went over to Martingale. I did 10 books with Martingale. I have done several other publications with like McCall's Magazine. They used to make publications. So I've done 30 quilt books.
Is it a lot of work?
It is. But I also, when I write books, I partner very heavily with my publisher, so that it's their job to do like the editing, their job to do all the formatting, all that kind of stuff. So it's my job to come up with the designs and the concepts and get the quilts made and all that. But I'm not laying out the books and things like that.
Mm.
That's a publisher job. That's not my job. There are people who do the whole thing.
Hmm.
They self-publish books where they have to do the layout, they have to do the marketing of the book, head to distributors and all that. Whereas if when you partner with a publisher, you have you're splitting the work. There's work. So I think the most I did was like 3 books in 1 year, which was insane. That was insane. Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
like a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And I was also
agree.
teaching on the road. So that was
Oh my
no other
goodness.
life but that.
So speaking of being on the road, how often do you travel now?
Zero.
Zero.
So yeah. So in 2019, after 20 years on the road, I stopped that part of my business. So
Mhm.
I decided 20 years of heavy travel was enough, and I would rather do something else. So
Mhm. Well, taking advantage of the online platforms works well for you too. So
yes,
that's
right.
awesome.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your YouTube videos and everything, I know you said with Facebook you have some moderators. With YouTube, do you primarily do that by yourself or with the assistance of your husband a little bit?
Yeah. I do it 100% by myself. I do it
Wow.
all of it. I decide what it's going to be. I film it, produce it. I put the film together, edit the film, load it, do all the social media, you know, notices that everybody will see it came out and all that. So yeah.
Pat Sloan
Uh,
says,
and this is why we call you quilting royalty.
Oh,
Pat Sloan says, I be girl bossing right now.
right. Oh.
Teach
It's
me
a
your
lot of
ways. When we were emailing before when you had mentioned doing a podcast for 10 years and like, this is a new venture for us. I'm like, pass on the wisdom. We'll take any advice you've got.
stuff. I really enjoyed interviewing people. I really enjoyed because I love stories and I
Mhm.
love hearing what makes people tick, and I would spend a lot of time going out and looking at what my guests did for with their work. I would read their most current things. I would look at their, if they had videos or their pictures or whatever they were doing so that I knew some fun things. I would always ask my guests, was there something special they wanted to share? Was there something going on that they wanted to tell us about? Because I can't know everything. I don't know. So if I ask them, then I get the best information in advance. And then we always had sort of a list of questions because some people are not quick on their feet. They don't want to be surprised. So I always had all my list of questions. This is the kind of things we're going to talk about. So we'd agree on it and they would know in advance. That way they felt comfortable. It was all about being comfortable. And of course, mine were no video. So they could be in their jammies and didn't need any makeup. They could have the dog on their lap. It didn't matter.
Make it a little more comfortable. Sorry. Well, on that note, Pat, is there something that you would like to share with us?
I wasn't fishing, but yeah, I mean, I really would hope that if you're not, if YouTube is something that you just use, like I'm just going to go search for this, and then you get off of YouTube, I would suggest you look around and see what else might be, because there are so many other types of videos out there besides strict tutorials, which are amazing. You can learn everything you need to know by a tutorial on YouTube. It is incredible. There's so much good stuff, but there's other styles. So you might want, you just explore. I tell people you can listen to them in the background because a lot of it you don't need to watch so much. You can, just kind of listen to the chat, to what they're talking about. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I've declared myself like the unofficial ambassador for the Virginia Quilt Museum. So I had to give a plug to the Virginia Quilt Museum. If you're in Virginia and you are near Harrisonburg, Virginia, stop into the Virginia Quilt Museum. It is in a pre-Civil War home. So if you're into old homes, that's really neat. You can see most of the home because the museum fills the whole house. It's 3 stories. And they always have great exhibits. They have not just old quilts, they have lots of contemporary quilts, all different styles of quilts. And I often talk about what they're doing on my videos. And I just finished, which we still have little parts of it, but we did a sew along with my friend Wendy Shepard and I, where we actually patterned a quilt from the museum and ran it with the museum as a fundraiser. so that we could raise money for the museum. They bought the pattern. We did a sew along. We are having an in-person event in September with Wendy and I and the vintage quilt and our quilts. And then people can submit their quilts to have some of them exhibited in the museum for a 3-month exhibit. So it is awesome.
Spectacular.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. So I've got a question with Wendy Shepard. She's an Auraphilosopher, correct? So are you a fan of Auraphil?
Oh, I've been with Auraphil since they started making thread. So have you met Alex Veronelli?
I've not met Alex. No.
Alex is head of their marketing.
Yes, we have.
Oh, yes, we have. I just didn't realize her last name. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Alex V. Yeah. So Alex wrote me one time and said, many years ago, he goes, "Can I send you some thread?" And I'm like, "Sure, send me some thread." And we've been best friends ever since. So he and Elena Brigatti. Elaine is the president of Auraphil and Auraphil USA. Her father's the president of the major Auraphil, which is based in Italy. So I've been part of the Auraphil family since day one. I have thread kits with them and things like that. So
nice.
Pat Sloan's perfect box of neutrals.
Yeah, there you
that's
go.
right.
I do have to clarify because I now am confused because I'm sitting here thinking Alex is I'm thinking of Aaron.
You're thinking of Aaron, but
I'm
we
thinking
did
of
meet
Aaron.
Alex. We met. They were really good to us when we met them. We met the whole Auraphil team except for Karen Miller, who I am dying to meet in person.
Oh,
because
Karen's
I love her.
wonderful.
Yeah. She's gosh, I just love Karen.
Yeah.
Karen, if you ever watch this, I love you, and I can't wait to see you virtually again.
Yeah. So I'm horrible with names, but yeah, now that we have that clarified, thank you for that.
Yes, Erin, she is sort of a contact person, marketing also, but a contact person. Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah. Brian can definitely share his love for Auraphil.
Oh yeah, I just think it's a great. I think it's a great product. I think that they're very thoughtful with how they curate their collections, and I know that the company has a really good message behind it. The culture there is really great. They're always doing really good things for the community at large. I love working with them every chance I get.
Yeah, they're an international company, and so they're very mindful of a lot of things, and are very generous across with the quilters, with events. When the Ukraine war started, when Ukraine was invaded, a lot of people felt kind of like they wanted to do something, and I talked to Auraphil and I said, I want to do something, but I want to raise money. That's what I want to have. I want to do. So they helped me figure out. We did a fundraiser that raised like $230,000. So it was,
that's a lot.
That is a lot of money.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of money.
That's amazing to take that
quilters,
on.
Quilters were amazing. I did a quilt block, and people made the quilt blocks and hung them all over the place. All where they live, their businesses. Then people in other countries, would send me pictures of the quilt blocks that they made into quilts, and then lots of quilts were donated to different places on behalf. But the whole thing was done as a fundraiser, and Auraphil was the company I approached to help me figure out what was the best way to do this. So
I want to touch on one thing because this has been fresh on my mind. I was thinking about this the other evening. I must have just been like washing the dishes and zoning out or something. But I was thinking about what I enjoy about quilting so much. And I don't know, like as a symbol, like what does a quilt mean to humanity? Like it's a symbol of comfort and warmth and security and comfort and love. And so it takes a very specific, empathetic, warm type of person to want to dedicate their time to making a quilt for somebody, because on a human level, like it is such a meaningful gift. And it brought me full circle with those thoughts that I was having this weekend when you talk about how you had talked about quilters wanting to help, and when the Ukraine war happened, I experienced the warmth of the quilting community for the first time when I was working in customer service here in the middle of the pandemic, and all quilters wanted to do was make masks for everybody. That's all they wanted to do. They just wanted to help. And so, I don't know, I think that you in your platform, you kind of embody that essence a little bit. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Oh, it is an amazing hobby for people, and it is much deeper in a lot of people. Just as
Yes.
you were expressing, there's a deepness to it that they may not ever really sit down and think broadly about it, but it is there. It's not for everybody. Some people make a baby quilt and that's it. They're done. But there's so many people. It's actually, quilting is a lifestyle. It is
Yeah.
a lifestyle, and for a large number of people. And it doesn't mean that they have to sew every day. They
Mhm.
might just look at patterns, or go on watch YouTube, or go to their community, just go to the store and browse and buy, because buying is one hobby and making stuff is another. They're
True.
two separate hobbies.
That is a fact.
That's awesome. Well, you get to use my one of
Yes.
3 quilts.
Thank you, Trisha. I am wearing her quilt right now.
I'm on a very early journey in my quilting experience. So,
Well, everybody has to make their first quilt. I mean, you
Mhm.
can't get there without making one, and then you have to make more and more and more. That that's what I always tell everybody. You just need to make another one. Okay, you're done. Make another one. You just. I love to make. That's
Mhm.
when I started quilting, I knew it was going to be a deep dive, because I was like, oh, this is really fun, because I love fabric. And for
mm,
clothing, I'm not very good at making clothing. I'm pretty bad,
Mm.
because it just didn't click with me. But I made it anyways. I made it for years and years, and I would wear it, and it didn't fit, and I just make something else. But when I found quilting, I was like, yes, this is it. This is
mm.
it.
Brian and I have had this conversation before. I love the sewing process. Like, even with quilting or whatever, I like just being behind the machine, relaxing, getting in my zone. I think the thing that I struggle with the most on quilting is the prep. Like, I'm like, maybe I should start with kits and have it all cut out. And then I can get behind the machine. But
Yeah.
I know you enjoy the cutting process a lot.
Yeah, for me, it's what I like about quilting is the ritual. It
Mhm.
you find something that you want to make, and then you go and you buy the fabric and you get the pattern and you do the measurements, and then you start the cutting. But you have to, do you pre-wash, or you don't pre-wash? Do you starch? Do you press? Like, everybody has their own very particular way of doing it. And there's also something very peaceful about the consistency of the hobby, that you are repeating yourself a lot. You're almost like tessellating your actions a
Mm,
little bit.
Mhm.
And it just, like, I have a very anxious ADHD mind, and when I'm quilting, my mind is quiet. And
mm,
it's a luxury that I don't get to experience when I'm doing a lot of other things. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. No, in prepping for it, though, another thing I've told you, I like to do projects that that I can finish relatively quickly. So maybe that's another thing that I struggle with when it comes to quilting, because it's hard for me to do that slowing down. I want to just be done. So I have recently started, like, just making myself slow down, take my time on different projects and stuff. And I've enjoyed the process. It's just not my natural tendency.
Right.
So I think I
Right.
will become more in love with quilting as I continue
Mhm.
to do that. So,
Yeah. And as you keep making them, it'd be like, it's like learning to drive. When you learn to drive, you have so many things that are new. Like, you don't know how
mm,
to do any of those things. So it's
Mhm.
hard to remember learning to drive, but that's the way it was. But then they become habit, or they become
Mhm.
just totally things you don't think about. And that's the way it happens with quilting. In the beginning, there's so many different little things that you have to keep in place, and your mind has to be pretty in sync with all of it. But later, after a while, you get to narrow that down, and then you can
mm,
sort of be zen, a little bit zen about a lot of it. And that's
mhm.
kind of relaxing, because your brain doesn't have to be so focused all the time to be sure that but you still have to focus, like, did you cut that
Mhm.
right? I just have something right now that I'm like, oh, that what? That's not right. I
What did
cut
I
that.
do?
I mean, I cut a bunch of them, and here's two of them that are too small. Like, what the heck is that? So I even
So,
sewed one of them, and it was wrong. So yeah, there.
nice. So, outside of quilting, Pat, what else do you like to do?
There's other things that's like,
Yeah, what do
No,
you mean outside of quilting?
You're totally fine
Right.
with saying, no, this is it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, over the years, I have tried many, many crafts before I sort of settled in and, sort of zoned only to this. I do some cross stitch. I always call myself a baby cross stitcher. I do, and it's still like in the sewing realm. Like I've done hand embroidery, that kind of a thing, handwork. But outside of that, I love flowers, and so I do some gardening. But I don't do a ton because I don't want the maintenance of a garden. So my garden is kind of contained, not too big, not too much. I do like travel when it's not work now, like travel somewhere for fun. But yeah, that's, I used to do a lot of baking and cooking, but I don't do that so much anymore. That was kind of, I did that for many, 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 many years. And now I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
Stick to what you like,
Yep.
yeah.
So, what's one way that you boost your creativity?
I'm not that deep. That's like,
Do it.
I'm not that deep. Yeah. Well, I guess I don't really have problems with my creativity. I guess that's, there are times when, especially earlier in my career, where I have to design on command, basically design like production designing. There are people who are artists who do their work, and then there are like production artists. And so I think a lot of quilt people in the quilt business, you have to work on a production artist kind of mindset. So if I need to produce a snowman quilt today or within the next day or so, I need to do it to meet a deadline. It isn't like I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling it, I'll do it in December. Like, no, you have to have the quilt shipped in the next, 3 weeks. So you've got to get the design ready. So, and if you're writing a book and it's seasonal, you might be out of sync of the seasons. You've just got to sort of dig in and do that, do whatever it is. So I just find it's just a job. It's a job to figure it out and you make it happen. So I don't really do anything special. I just decide, well, today is the day it's going to happen. And, if I'm having some problems with it, I might leave it till the next day, but
Awesome.
Just get it done.
Yep.
Just get it
Yeah.
done.
Do it.
yeah, if you know anybody who does production artwork, like in big companies or small companies, whatever, you have deadlines and you just can't sit around not doing your job. So you just dig in and it starts coming up, I guess.
I love that. So, I do want to touch on the machine that you use. What is your normal sewing machine?
I have a Baby Lock Solaris
Whoa.
Vision.
We're both like,
Make me
dream
swoon.
machine.
I am a Baby Lock ambassador, and I have been for 6-7 years, something like that. And so they are very, very generous. They always like us to have the ambassadors to have, newer, higher end machines. It has lots of bells and whistles that are not my normal work mode. Like it has incredible embroidery features, which I'm just not an embroidery quilter. So, or embroidery person. It's just, and I've done it, but it's just not in my mode, what I normally do. So, but I love the machine. I used to have, I still have it. I have a tiara and I have a sashiko and I have an older Destiny 2 machine as well. But like I used to use the tiara for the free motion quilting, but the Solaris, I don't really need to use the tiara now because if it's really big, I just send it to long armor because I'm not interested in that type of quilting. So the smaller stuff I can just do on the Solaris. So I can do everything.
It's a huge machine.
It is a huge machine, but in general, though, Baby Lock, their machines are so beautiful and they're so user friendly, and their interface is wonderful to use. And we love their education, and I just love everything about Baby Lock. So
that's kind of the key here. I mean, like that's the other thing about Baby Lock and about you and about Aurifil and about like, they are about community. It's all about community. Those are the brands we tend to gravitate towards, or the things we tend to use. It's the ones that are about building the community.
That's very interesting. You're diving in for the reasons behind it. I love it. No, I'm a big fan. So very, very cool. Well, I hate that we always have to do the ending thing. It's always like, I don't want to end.
Well, I've got a
But
good ending question.
do it.
What's next for Pat Sloan?
Well, I don't know. I just sort of move. I don't have any huge plans or any secrets or anything like that. I I have to do my August schedule, but other than that's just in a few weeks it comes up. That's about how far ahead I'm planning. No, I do plan things for the years, but I just don't have major big. I mean, after being I think I've been full time in the business almost 24 years and have done a lot of different things. And I've been, enjoyed all of those experiences. And so now I really just like to sort of sew for fun. Really, that's what I like to sew for fun. Don't, I also have fabric with Benertex, so I'm constantly doing sort of projects with my Benertex fabric. That's what this fabric is here. And so that's a thing that's always sort of ongoing and coming along. But yeah, just sew alongs and having fun and doing the same thing I'm doing now.
Perfect. Well, on a final note, what is one piece of advice that you would give a new quilter?
A new quilter. Yeah. I would just say keep making quilts because people will tend to make one and feel like it has to like be a masterpiece or whatever. Not everybody feels that way, but a lot of people do, but then they stop. And it might be a while before they make another one. It's a mind, memory, motion kind of a thing, even for quilting. So if you do one, then make another, make another, make another. Just get on that train, and just keep going because you get better really fast by making things, not by reading about it or watching it or talking about it. You actually get better by making them. And so if you could just keep going one right after the other, even if they're simple, you will start perfecting all those things like your quarter inch and your cutting abilities and how you put it together. The final thing, your color organization, all of that gets fine tuned by actually making.
Wonderful. And I'm going to take that advice.
Go cut a quilt out today.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Pat. Seriously, this has been truly an honor to get to sit and chat with you. So we appreciate you taking the time to spend with us.
And don't be
thank you so
surprised
much.
to that event in September, by the way.
You're going to come in September?
I don't know, maybe. Probably yes.
Really? Oh, good.
I'll drive to Virginia. Heck yeah. My sister lives in Manassas Park.
Oh, okay.
So
In
I'll just go
Manassas.
chill with
Oh,
her. Yeah.
yeah. So Harrisonburg is about 2 hours south
Heck yeah.
of Manassas.
Road trip.
All right, Pat, I'm doing it. I'm going to meet you.
Okay. Yes.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Pat. It was wonderful meeting and speaking with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching.
Cool.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Pat. Oh,
Pat, thank you for doing that with us.
Yes.
I can tell you.
Oh, this is great.
I have to tell you, we both were very nervous, so we do apologize if that showed.
yeah.
No, you said so. So it's like
Cool.
you just said it right away. So no, I'm joking.
The two of us are a little overly vulnerable sometimes.
Yeah.
No, you're great. You are a lot of fun. I found it quite interesting, the kind of companies you said you gravitate to. And as we were talking, it's because of their community and stuff. Because I can just see that now spending this little bit of time with you. You are really, really great people. You can just tell.
That makes my heart happy. I'm speaking for you, Brian, but that makes my heart happy.
No, but you can really see this is really important to you. And it's more than just because it's your job. You've kind of, you both have kind of, I can see that you've sort of dived into that aspect of what it can bring to you for your business, not just your business, but also to you personally. So, I mean, that community, I think it's wonderful that you're in the guild because that's a way to really sort of touchstone things that are going on. And also some of my lifelong friends, that's where I found them. People that I know still and I met the first day I joined Guild. So
I am super excited.
They said, come and sit here. They said, come and sit here. And I still know them.
We are so my guild. I've been to one business meeting and a couple of classes, but they're doing a quilt show in October,
Yeah.
and I am submitting my first quilt to it. So I'm a
Oh,
little terrified, but I'm also super
oh,
excited. So
yeah, yeah. It is a little bit nerve wracking to put a quilt in the show. You know, even if it's a non-juried show. I don't know if your guild juries them, but my guild doesn't. So it's kind of a
Mhm.
little bit safer zone because you're not getting ribbons or judging. They do one people's choice, you know, so that's it.
Yeah.
But it is that is an interesting thing. Mine, when I submitted my first one, I don't remember being real scared, but when I went to see it, it wasn't straight. It was hanging up like this. Like it was like I'm like, oh
You're
well,
like, make it
Whoa,
that's
straight.
whoa, whoa,
really.
whoa! Anybody got a sewing machine?
Let's hope nobody's reading that label because that's really awful. But I showed that quote for years then in my lectures. You know,
Oh,
I
That's
would take
awesome.
it and show it and tell people because, you know, you just, but it is hard. It's hard to put yourself out there because there are judgmental people and
Hmm.
they do show up and they are vocal. And so they do happen, you know. But you know, you get some really thick skin after a while.
24
Good to
years
know.
and we'll put in 24 years and then we'll have that thick skin, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well,
Oh,
Pat,
Well, if
thank
you've
you.
done customer service, you already have thick skin.
7 years.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
7 years.
3 years and I only cried one time.
Oh,
So,
mine was not one time.
Pat, I just wanted to say, we said thank you for joining, but I have to get up and go to the bathroom, so I'm going to go. But I want to say thank you for being an inspiration. You are right. I genuinely do love quilting, whether or not like my journey with sewing parts online, is a long term or whatever. I have been very blessed through this job to find an art form.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought that I would be artistic or creative ever in my life. And
Hmm.
I definitely look up to you as a role model. And I hope that I do get to meet you and that just like I get to every once in a while maybe share my journey with you and be like, oh my gosh, look, I won a blue ribbon. Like, can you imagine in 3 years if I win a
Sure.
blue ribbon? I'm going to email you. That's the first thing I'm going to do.
Yes,
Awesome.
do. That's
Awesome.
awesome.
Thank you, Pat. I hope you have a great day.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.